So in this short video, we're going to quickly run some Macabacus visualizations and tools. We're going to provide you with a couple of tips, and then we're going to set you up with an assignment to try to find some errors on this cash flow statement. Let's jump in and get started. So let's start off by quickly running some Macabacus tools here. We're going to start at the top. We're going to select all of these numbers and Control-Alt-A to auto color, and then Alt-1 for a functional map. So this is exactly what we would expect. We're seeing formulas, and in green, we're seeing worksheet links, likely back to the inputs page. Let's tap Alt-5 to clear these visualizations. So let's run a formula flow really quickly by tapping Alt-4 on our keyboard like this. What we can see in every row all the way down the cash flow statement are horizontal lines, indicating perfect consistency from left to right. We even see some vertical consistency here with these working capital items, and we can see vertical consistency in the cash from financing section as well. Let's tap Alt-5 to clear those visualizations. Now, one thing to keep in mind about financial models is that if they're built correctly, they should be perfectly vertically aligned. For example, we can see here that we have the information for 2023 coming up in column K. Well, the information or data for 2023 should always be in column K all the way up and down through this model vertically. So a great way to check this alignment in a financial model is by leveraging the Show All Precedents tool in Macabacus. So let's highlight these numbers right to the bottom of the cash flow statement and then hit Control-Alt left square bracket to activate Show All Precedents. So this can look really busy at first. When we look at these arrows, the ones that are completely vertical are looking fine. But when we see an arrow that's moving diagonally, like this one, this is an indication that there could be a mislink in the model, and we want to flag these for further review. So what we want to do is move up in the model a little bit to see where that arrow connects. So let's use the scroll lock key. Just tap the scroll lock key once on your keyboard, and then use the up arrow to move up here like this. And we can see a connection to deferred tax, which looks a little suspicious. Let's move back down like this to bring this into view and tap scroll lock once again. Now that we've confirmed that that connection is to deferred tax, let's move down to this cell for deferred tax and hit Control-Shift-K to change the fill color and mark it. If we look at the bottom of the cash flow statement, we can also see another arrow that appears to be diagonal. Let's tap the scroll lock key once and move down, and we can see that connection to cash on the balance sheet. So we can move back up just like this and then tap the scroll lock key once more. Now that we've confirmed that diagonal arrow at the bottom, let's move down here to mark the cell where it's connecting into like this by hitting Control-Shift-K to change the fill color. The other thing that we can check quickly while we're looking at all these precedents is the ranges for these sum functions. For instance, this one looks fine to us, but down here, you can see that this sum looks like it's missing this cell right here. So let's pop in here and mark this one orange as well. So we can easily clear these arrows now by tapping Control-Alt \, just like this. And we're in this cell here where it says subtotal. So let's tap F2. And we can confirm that the sum function is not grabbing all the values. So let's just tap Alt equals, which is just an auto sum, and then Control-Shift-R to copy across. So let's move up to this orange cell now and activate Pro Precedents, Control-Shift left square bracket. And as we move down with the arrow, we can see it's incorrectly connected to the next period. So we want to tap F2 again, watching for when the cell is flashing like this. Now we can move to the left and hit enter, and we've made the change. Let's escape out. Now that we've made that change, we can just hit Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right. So now let's investigate this last orange cell down here. We're going to activate Pro Precedents, Control-Shift left square bracket, tap the down arrow, and we can see it's connected back to the ending balance from the balance sheet in the previous period. That's actually correct. So let's just hit escape to move back like this. Now that we've cleaned up those orange cells, let's just highlight all of these cells, Alt-HHN, just to clear out those colors. Now we've been able to clear out a bunch of issues on this cash flow statement, but we're going to leave you with an assignment. Before the next video, please make sure that you go through this first column and do a thorough check to make sure that there's no more issues or errors lurking in there. We'll take them up and see in the next video. See you there. So I hope you had time to run that quick check down one column of the cash flow statement as an assignment. There was one error lurking in there. You might have used show all precedents or maybe pro precedents or even one of the visualization tools from Macabacus, but none of those tools would have found it. Actually, what was needed here was a sanity check of the numbers. Let's jump in and take a look. So as we mentioned, you may have used a bunch of tools that were available in Excel or Macabacus. Those tools would have probably checked out, but what was really needed here is really a sanity check. So let's take a look. We have net income coming up as positive number here. We're adding back depreciation and deferred tax because these are both non-cash items, so they need to be added back. So utilizing Macabacus tools all the way down here, like pro precedents, for example, and checking in here, maybe with F2, would have revealed that those formulas are perfect. The issue with the cash flow statement was actually right down here. As you can see, we're marking capital expenditure as a positive number. As you know, cash outflows should always be marked as negative in the cash flow statement. Now, even if you found this issue and corrected it, keep watching because we're going to show you a couple of really neat tips to make this change very quickly. What we're also going to do at the end of this video is set you up with another assignment for the balance sheet. Now, the fastest way to fix this problem using Macabacus is actually by highlighting all of these cells at once and using the flip sign functionality. So we're going to hit Control-Shift-N. We get this dialog box. The selection contains formulas. Do you want to flip the sign of the formulas to? Let's hit enter for yes, and it's been corrected. Now this shortcut is really easy to remember. Control-Shift-N, N for negative. So let's hit Control-Shift-N once more and hit enter to flip it back and look at a different way that we could have made this change. Now obviously you would know how to make this change by tapping F2. But just to illustrate, we could make the change also with pro precedents. So we hit pro precedents, Control-Shift, left square bracket, and instead of tapping the down arrow now, we're just going to tap F2. What we've done is entered into the cell. We'll delete out the negative sign like this, hit enter, and then hit escape, and we've made the change. Now what we can do is just hit Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right. What might be really nice here is just to finish off with a little formula flow, just to make absolutely sure that we've correctly copied everything across. So Alt-4 on the keyboard, we can see a really nice pattern here on the cash flow statement. Alt-5 to clear that visualization. So for now, we're all done here with the cash flow statement. Remember, it's always a good idea to move through the model in a modular fashion when you're completing an audit of a financial model. So next up, we're going to give you another assignment. This time, we need you to check out the balance sheet. There are definitely some issues with it, but this is going to be a little harder than the last assignments. Try to see if you can find all of the issues with the balance sheet, and don't skip ahead till the next video until you're sure that you found all of them. We'll see you there. So I hope you found some errors on the balance sheet because there were definitely a bunch of them hiding in there. And some of them were kind of tricky. So let's jump right into it and go through them to make sure that you were able to correctly locate and fix all of them. Let's start off with a couple of our favorite tools that are really quick to run. We're going to highlight the entire balance sheet, including the actuals as well as the forecast. And we're going to hit Control-Alt-A for auto color selection and then Alt-1 for a functional map. It's obviously normal to see inputs down this first column where we have a year of actuals, but we should definitely not be seeing an input here. So let's mark this orange, Control-Shift-K to change the fill color. And then down here, we can see a partial input as well. Let's tap F4 to mark that one as well. Now we can hit Alt-5 to clear that visualization out. While we're down in this cell here, we can tap F2 just to see what's going on. It looks like there's a partial input here where the person has subtracted another 700,000 there, perhaps because they're expecting a share buyback. Let's just hit the backspace key to delete that, and then Control-Shift-R to copy that forward. Now, if we go up here, there's definitely no reason why there should be an input on the balance sheet. So we can just hit Control-Shift-R from here to do a fast fill right. So let's select the entire balance sheet again, just like this, right to the bottom. And we're going to do Alt-HHN to remove the fill colors, and then Control-Alt-A to auto color the selection. Now, while we have these cells highlighted, we could quickly run formula flow. So Alt-4 on the keyboard. The one thing which jumps out at us almost right away is right down here. This total liability should be consistent the whole way across. So let's highlight this cell right here. Control-Shift-K to change the fill color, and then Alt-5 to clear the visualization. So if we're concerned here with row differences, a great way to check that would be to show all precedents. So let's highlight across and then hit Control-Alt left square bracket, and right away we can see the problem. It appears as though the sum in these cells is missing one of the rows. So let's pop into this cell with an F2. We can see this one is correct. So now Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right to clear that up. Now that we've cleared that up and corrected it, let's remove the fill color, Alt-HHN, and that's done. We should probably also check for good vertical alignment here. So remember, we can select this first column all the way down and then show all precedents, Control-Alt left square bracket, and we're looking for diagonal arrows here. The arrows which are perfectly vertical are likely fine, but we can see one extending off diagonally above. So let's go page up here, and we can see actually it's connected right in here to accounts payable. So let's go back down and mark that cell down here. Control-Shift-K will change the fill color so we can investigate. So let's now tap Control-Alt-backslash to remove the arrows. So here we can use pro precedence. So Control-Shift left square bracket, and it opens up. We tap the down arrow once and a second time to get to the second reference. Now we tap F2, make sure we're in point mode, move left, hit enter, and now we can escape out of the tool. Now we just hit Control-Shift-R for a fast fill right, Alt-HHN to remove the fill color. So these tools have been really helpful, but to be diligent, let's run them again really quickly. Here's a functional map, Alt-1. That looks great. Let's clear that visualization and run formula flow, which is Alt-4. A beautiful pattern there. Let's clear that visualization, and now we want to select down the first column and show all precedents. And what we're seeing here is only vertical arrows. So now let's clear the arrows. So those visualizations were really helpful, but we can never ever skip a manual check of that first column. Let's go ahead and do that in the next video so you can see if you were able to catch all of the errors that were lurking in this balance sheet. We'll see you there. One thing that's so important with financial model auditing is that we should never skip a manual check. It's definitely easy to get carried away with the visualizations. They're also fun to run with Macabacus, but we always need to do a thorough manual check of at least one column in the model to make sure that the formulas and linkages are correct. Let's dive in, take a look at the balance sheet. Now, I'm sure that you've gone down this balance sheet in some detail and checked all of these formulas. One of the things that you would have noticed is that right here in the cash line, there's an error that we need to fix. The first clue here is that the cash balance is not changing. This can happen sometimes when there's a minimum cash balance wired into a model, but in this case, we actually have a mislink. So if we go into this cell and hit Pro Precedence, which is Control-Shift left square bracket, and then we hit the down arrow, we can see that it's actually linked to beginning cash, should be ending cash for the balance sheet. So let's tap the F2 key now, and then use the down arrow to connect to ending cash, hit enter, and then we can escape out and the change has been made. Now that we've fixed that first linkage, we can hit Control-Shift-R, which is a fast fill right, to copy that change across. The next thing that we definitely need to do is to go down here to the bottom of the balance sheet where this check is, because it's a little bit peculiar that we've been fixing a lot of errors in the balance sheet and in the cash flow statement, and all the time this check is showing that the balance sheet is okay. We need to investigate. So the first thing that we can do is just tap F2. And we can see that the formula is assets minus total liabilities and equity, which is totally correct. So let's just escape out of this cell. Let's make sure now that we have horizontal consistency across the row. So we're going to select across, hit Alt-4 for a quick formula flow. We see perfect horizontal lines. So now Alt-5 to clear that visualization. Now remember back to the Explorer pane. It definitely alerted us that there was conditional formatting on the balance sheet. In fact, it was right here in these cells that we're highlighting. So let's tap Alt-H-L to get into conditional formatting. And now we hit the up arrow and we can go straight into Manage Rules. We can see clearly right here that this formula is fine. It's detecting if J106 is not equal to 0, and that will trip off the conditional format. The other thing that we really want to check is to make sure that this cell is unlocked, which it is. So it's free to travel across from left to right and check this entire range. Given that this rule is fine, let's just tap Escape to back out. So the check appears to be perfect. The formula is correct. It's correctly copied across from left to right, and the conditional formatting logic is also working. So why is it that our balance sheet always appears to be balanced? Something else must be wrong with the balance sheet. Let's check it out. In fact, the issue with this balance sheet is right up here in retained earnings. And you may have noticed this. Let's tap F2, and we can see the formula is set to be total assets minus total liabilities minus all the remaining pieces of equity. So the model is effectively back solving for retained earnings. The problem with this wiring is it will create a balance sheet that always balances. And the issue with this is that the balance sheet is supposed to act as an error detection system. By putting this wiring into the model, the person has overridden that natural error detection system. So let's escape out and put the correct formula in place here. In fact, let's prove that the error detection is not working. We're going to go up here to Accounts Payable, tap F2, and add in a $15 million hard code. We hit Enter, and the balance sheet always balances. Let's just undo this. So this is obviously not what we want. We want the balance sheet to indicate to us when there's an imbalance. Let's go ahead and fix things. So what we want to do to fix retained earnings is pop into this cell and hit equals, and set it equal to the previous year's retained earnings, plus we're going to add net income. Let's pop up to the cash flow statement right here and add net income. And then we can tap plus and click right here to effectively subtract off these dividends. Let's hit Enter, and we've made that change. Now let's just tap the scroll lock key to bring everything back into focus like this. Now we need to take retained earnings, Control-Shift-R to do a fast fill right. We should have a balance sheet now that actually detects errors. Let's go back up to Accounts Payable, tap F2. We're going to add 15 million in again, hit Enter, and we can see the balance sheet's working perfectly. Let's undo that adjustment, continue on. So this wiring that we've just shown you on the balance sheet is obviously very dangerous because it overrides the natural error detection system, and you never want to have that wiring on your balance sheet. So what we'd like for you to do now is go down to the next schedule, which is the DCF schedule, and give it a quick check before you watch the next video. See if you can find any errors in there. There might be some lurking in that schedule. We'll figure that out in the next video. See you there.